right. Good evening, everyone, or good afternoon if you're on the West Coast. Thank you all for joining us for this session, our professional development series, specifically about law. We have some very distinguished panelists who are with us this evening to kind of share their advice, their expertise, and some great information with all of you this evening. We encourage you, if you would like to turn your video on so that we can see your faces and that you can interact with the panelists this evening. No pressure, you don't have to, but we would love to see your faces if you choose to. So this evening we'll have kind of just open panel discussions for the first half or so, and then we will be going into breakout rooms where each individual panelist will have a room where you can ask individual questions. So throughout the evening, I will be kind of sending you private chats to see if there's a specific individual's room that you would like to go into, so that when we get to the breakouts room session or part of the evening, we can go directly into that. You can ask questions specifically to the panelists in their specific breakout rooms. So again, thank you all for joining us. We are lucky to have one of our wonderful Ron Brown Scholar alumni who will be both a member of the panel and moderating this evening, Ms. Karla Aghedo. So I will turn the evening over to her to introduce herself, and then the additional panelists will introduce themselves, and then we will get going. So Karla, the floor is yours.
Thank you so much, Randy. And thank you, Holly, Anita, and Vanessa for being here on behalf of the Ron Brown Scholar Program. I'm super excited to be here and to be asked to do this. So thank you for that as well. I'm Karla Aghedo. I'm a Ron Brown Scholar from the class of 2001, which used to seem really young. And now I acknowledge how old that sounds. And that's okay. We're in our 20th year as Ron Brown Scholars. And I'm super excited to be a part of this organization and for the work that this organization does. And very excited to be with you guys tonight to talk about this topic. I'm also excited to be here with a distinguished panel of fabulous powerhouse women. I want to let them introduce themselves. If you could let us know, of course, your name, what organization you're with now, where you went to law school, and what year you finished law school. That would be awesome. And I'll start. So I'm Karla Aghedo. I am now with the Aghedo firm, which is my own law firm. I went to the University of Virginia School of Law, and I graduated in 2010.
I'll go next. My name is Allison Palmer. I'm in-house counsel at Google LLC. So that's your search engine generally. Although lots of people are contesting that should be the case. But that's what a lot of us use these days. I went to the University of Washington Law School in Seattle, Washington, and I graduated in 2013.
Love it.
Hi, my name is Lexi SantaAna. I am a fourth year associate in the corporate department at a law firm called Latham and Watkins. I went to the University of Texas School of Law and graduated in 2017.
Awesome. So thank you so much again, Ron Brown Scholar Program, for putting me on a panel with these younger, more fabulous ladies to make me feel even more old. This is great. But also hopefully what they share with you will be even more relevant to where you are in your life, either as a Ron Brown Scholar alum or as a current undergraduate student, or between undergrad and law school as you're making your plans for what you want to do next in your life. So thank you guys so much. So the first question that I want to ask, right, is what do you think distinguishes the top leaders in our industry as lawyers?
Yeah, I'm happy to start with this one. So one of the things that I find distinguishes leaders is that they say yes to any opportunities that arise. They don't shy away from challenges. They don't shy away from meeting new people, networking, taking on tasks that maybe their seniors at the time asked them to take. And I think just being open to challenges and embracing challenges is something that I really see amongst my peers and amongst my the partners at my firm is something they do on a regular basis.
Love that.
I think there are a couple of things I would highlight. They're risk takers. They're okay being out on the leading edge, being comfortable in the uncomfortable spaces. They're willing to listen to dissenting opinions. So they're okay with not being right all the time. And there's a certain humility to the work that you just like don't know everything. I think as attorneys often, like the quintessential lawyerly answer is, it depends. Like always, it's like, okay, someone gives you the fact pattern and then you follow it up with it depends. Being humble and acknowledging that you don't know the exact, that there either isn't an exact answer or you don't know the exact answer, I think is a way that people distinguish themselves.
I love that. Absolutely. So my answer to that, what distinguishes the top leaders in this industry? I gotta say, it's those who can take on practices that will allow themselves to do this sustainably. So this is now my 11th year of practice. And what I've seen as the leaders in this practice are those who have developed some practices of wellness and self-care that allow them to continue doing this. Because at the end of the day, advocating for your clients, doing what's best for them has its challenges, right? It can be very stressful. And so those who are the leaders in our industry have figured out ways to do this in a way that protects their minds, their bodies, and frankly, their spirits, so that they can do it with resilience. And I think that's one of the words that's kind of been thrown around. But it's so important for us to talk about at the beginning of your career, if we can, so that you can start to develop some resiliency practices that allow you to continue doing this. Because there are lots of really smart, hardworking people who become lawyers. How do those lawyers get to stay around long enough to be leaders? Well, they've certainly got to take on risks. They've certainly got to step up to new challenges. And as they do those things, they've got to do it with some resilience so that they can bounce back from the challenges that they face. So I, want to drop that at the beginning of your career instead of sort of hitting a wall and then having to regroup, because that's really, really important in this career. So what are 3 things that you think RBS alumni do to become leaders in this industry? And the context here is that we're talking to some folks who are RBS alumni, and we're also talking to folks who are still in undergrad, but of course will graduate and from college and either go into law or other careers. So 3 things that we can do to become leaders in this industry.
I can go first. I think follow what you're passionate about. So I say that to college students and to law students, finding the subject area in undergrad that you are really excited by, whether that puts you on the like traditional path of law school or not. Like if you love poetry or science, chemistry, like whatever it is that you really enjoy in college, do that thing, excel in that thing, come out with the best, recommendation, like, having developed relationships that are going to be the foundation of your application. The grades are going to be there. Don't suffer through classical philosophy if you hate it, because you think that that's going to be the humanities track that's going to get you into law school. Law schools are looking for you to have excelled and to have done the thing that you really enjoyed in undergrad, and be able to bring that perspective with you, those experiences with you, and add something new and different. Like they've got a whole like sea of people doing pre-law and like English, you know, majors. Like, do something else, do whatever it is that, if you love pre-law and English, do that too. But, you know, follow what you're excited about. And the same thing goes for in law school. Do the things that are you're gonna find enjoyment in, whether that's being a part of a volunteer clinic, whether that's being a part of a journal, whether that's volunteering completely outside of the law school. If that's assisting someone in the business school, writing a contract, do those things. Do the things that you're excited by, because then that's the way that you're going to find your career path, like what you do post law school. So definitely follow the things that you're excited by. Find mentors, people who you can use as resources or sponsors. If you're already in law school, find people who are going to advocate for you, who are going to follow you and stay connected to you. Take people up on their offer to like stay connected with you, and don't let that fail. And then I guess the third thing is, I would actually sort of piggyback on what Karla said, is to be mindful of your wellness. The legal industry is quite tough, particularly in the early stages, like in those first few years. It can be a really tough grind of doing things that you're not excited by. So having outlets, having people who can help you, are willing to support you, I think is the third thing for me.
I love that. Absolutely.
But I'm not sure there's much else to say after that answer, but I think some of my ideas will piggyback off of Allison's. But one thing I would start with is, you in this program are in a group of, you know, high achieving, motivated individuals. So I think take advantage of interacting and getting to know your peers in this program and keep in touch with them. I think they'll be a great asset for you moving forward in your lives. They might be in all different industries, but great people to connect with and network with, even starting now. Another step I would take sort of to becoming a leader in this industry or any industry is taking advantage of opportunities like this to get to interact with different individuals from different backgrounds and getting to learn what they do. And using that as sort of a guidepost to figure out what you want to do, sort of in the same vein as study what you want to in undergrad, study what you want to in law school. I think it's important to carry that into your work. Like you've heard, this is, it's a challenging industry. And if you don't have any sort of interest in the work you're doing on the day-to-day basis, it's hard to maintain that grind. So it's hard to sort of become a leader in the industry if it's not something that you have a passion to do. And a third one, goodness, I think don't lose, and sort of in the same vein, don't lose your intellectual curiosity. Thinking about my own career path, I sort of have pivoted multiple times because I've realized I have interest in other things that maybe I wasn't focused on in undergrad or in law school. And don't be afraid to make those jumps later in your life too. Your life is not sort of a straight path. It twists and winds, and don't be afraid to go off on those paths as well.
I love it. And let's talk about that actually, because it looks like I might be off on a path where I didn't give you guys the chance to really explain to people kind of how you got to where you are now. So I would love to kind of do that piece of it so that people have a little bit of context, because we talked about where we went to law school and what year we graduated, what organization we're in, but sort of how did you get there after you graduated from law school? Did you go straight into the organization that you're in now? Did you have some other experiences that led you to there? Sort of how did you get to where you are now in leadership in your industry?
Yeah, I'll go ahead and go first. I think my path after law school has been quite straight, I would say, but I think getting to there has been probably the more interesting part of my story. So I studied medical anthropology and global health in undergrad. So definitely chose a passion major for me. And in that major, everyone says like you have to go get a master's in public health, but that wasn't really something I was interested in. So I really liked the policy aspect of my major, and that sort of let me know that law might be a good career for me down the line, but I was not ready for that after undergrad. So I did Teach for America after undergrad. I taught high school science for 2 years, which was not at all related to my major. And the biggest adventure of my life, absolutely, and more challenging than the legal profession, if you can believe that. So I absolutely loved my 2 years teaching. I would not trade it for the world. I considered staying in education. I loved it so much, but I still wanted to know if the law was something I would like to. So I then went to law school in Texas, and went straight into the firm I'm at now. But I think in each of those stepping stones, I learned I love education. I'm from Maine, also not a very diverse state. And so going to college and then moving to Texas, I was around a lot more different types of people. And I realized how much sort of diversity meant to me. So I took a lot of classes based on race in law school. And then at my law firm, I'm the head of the Black lawyers group in my office, and am on the diversity leadership board for the firm. So I sort of took those areas that I realized I had interest in, education and diversity, and have made sure they're part of my career at Latham, even though that's not what I do in terms of client work. So that's sort of how I got to where I am. And I made sure I do a lot of pro bono work in education. Sorry, I have so many thoughts in my head. So that's how that also ties into what I do now. Even though they're not what I do for my clients daily, it's still a big part of my work at Latham.
And so what do you do for your clients daily? What
All right, I am, yeah, I'm in the corporate group. And so I split my time between mergers and acquisitions and capital markets. So a lot of contract work. I never stepped foot in a courtroom. That's the litigation side of the law. I'm on the transactional side. So a lot of forming companies, helping them do their public filings, yeah, things like that.
Love it. Very cool. Alyson.
So I've wanted to be an attorney since I was 7 years old. I was inspired by Mrs. Huxtable, Claire Huxtable. I wanted to wear pencil skirts to the office. And, you know, Claire had a doctor for a husband and this beautiful brownstone. I was like, that is the life for me. And thankfully, I had lots of people in my life who encouraged that. And it really kept me like, you know, motivated. In undergrad, I studied political science and philosophy because those were the things that were interesting to me. Those are very traditional, like law school applicant candidate areas, but they genuinely were interesting and exciting to me. I also took some pre-law classes. Like I told you, I've been on this train since 7. After law school, I did a fellowship with the city of New York. I also, like Lexi, knew that even though I knew this whole time I wanted to go to law school, I wanted to be an attorney. I knew that I wanted some time in between undergrad and law school, and I really valued that time. I had told myself it would be just a year. I accepted a fellowship with the city of New York called the Urban Fellows Program, and that was a 1-year program. But then I stumbled into the Barack Obama campaign in 2007 and decided to join and become a field staffer. And I did that for a year. And then to my great surprise, at whatever I was, 23 or 24, like when you win the campaign, you get to go to the White House. And so I took a role in the first Obama White House. I did that. I was a part of the administration for 2 years. And then I went back to law school in Seattle, Washington, at the University of Washington. And then like Lexi, my trajectory was like pretty like traditional after that. In my first year of law school, I got a fellowship with the law firm that would give me my first offer out of law school. During that summer, I identified that I always knew I wanted to be a litigator because I'm a storyteller, as you can see right now. I enjoy telling stories. I wanted to be in the well of a courtroom. I'd done like mock trial stuff before, like in high school. And I knew that I wanted to litigate and be in the courtroom and argue. But I found the labor and employment sort of area, segment of litigation. So labor and employment work is all about race, gender, age, all the protected classes, discrimination. So it's discrimination, harassment, retaliation, wage and hour issues, basically litigating from the employer defense side, but also advising from that perspective as well. So making sure that employees are getting all the rights and benefits that they're owed under the law, like advising my clients in that space. And so I did that at 2 different law firms. And then in about my 6th year, I applied to become an in-house attorney at Google. And I am currently on the employment team, the global employment team at Google. So I continue to do that work just in-house. My clients are employees of Google. And the work that I do, in addition to like traditional employment legal work, so making sure, evaluating, working with our HR and our employee relations folks on investigations and making sure employees are getting what they're owed. I also work with our chief diversity officer. I'm actually the subject matter expert for DEI on my team. So I work really heavily with all parts of our racial equity and equity work in general. And so that's what I'm doing now.
It's amazing, Allison. I love it. Wow. So I went to the University of Virginia for law school, and as a summer associate in the summer before my last year of law school, I was at Hogan Lovells, which is a global law firm that has 48 offices around the world, 2,500 attorneys, like Latham, Watkins, where Lexi is. This is what we call big law. So they're these large law firms that have a presence across the globe. And I was a summer associate in our Washington, D.C. office. Now, this was around the time the economy was crazy. And so the firm wanted to give offers to the whole class of 54 students. But they said, we really just can't afford you guys this year. So we're going to give you a public service stipend to go and do public service anywhere in the world. And then come back to us in the fall of 2011 instead of the fall of 2010, which is where we would normally start. And I always share that part of my story because I feel like it's one of the most formative pieces of my time as a lawyer. My colleagues at law school, we were all stressed out. We were all concerned about the economy. We were all concerned about what kind of jobs we'd have and how these firms would respond to this economy. But for so many of us looking back on that, it was a true blessing in disguise to have the opportunity to go do public service at the beginning of my career instead of waiting till later on. And so in that year, I was an assistant district attorney in Palestine, Texas, which is a town of 20,000 people in East Texas, and happens to be where my parents live. And so I got a chance to be with them because I hadn't done that in almost 10 years at that point. I went off to undergrad in Iowa, and then I went straight to DC. I did a stint working for the John Kerry campaign, which feels like a real throwback, right? But so in that time, I hadn't had the opportunity to Iowa represent. Okay, Miriam. Okay, we can talk Iowa. So this was a really cool opportunity to live close to home. I got a lot of trial experience because as a prosecutor doing, criminal cases, you have a lot more authority over what kind of cases to bring and then whether and when that case is going to go to trial. So that was a very, very good experience for me as someone who wanted to be a litigator. And then I went back to the firm and in October of 2011 in our Washington, D.C. office and practiced there for 7 years until I moved to our Houston office in August of 2017 with the same firm. I then left the firm in March of 2020, right in the middle of a global pandemic. Yes. And I both started my own law firm, the Aghedo firm, where I specialize in white collar criminal defense and advising of businesses. And I also started Houston Wellness Workshops for Women, which provides wellness resources and experiences for professional women who want to reclaim their power through wellness. And so that's something that allows me to coach and counsel women like me who are doing what we do while I'm also lawyering for my clients. So that's my journey. And it's been an exciting one. And sort of starting your own law firm is like the last thing I thought I would do. I've always wanted to be a lawyer like you, Alyson, since I was a kid. And I've always wanted to own my own business, but I never thought the business would be a law firm. And so that's a real privilege that I have to help make a difference in the world and represent my clients.
Congratulations.
Did you say congratulations? Thank you so much. I received that. Thank you. Absolutely. So for those of you who are listening, let's see, 14 years ago, before I went to law school, I would not have known the whole concept of in-house. I just wouldn't have, right? I also really didn't understand big law. So there was sort of a steep learning curve for me once I got into law school. But just to clarify, Lexi is in a law firm with thousands of attorneys around the world, thousands of attorneys around the world. And Alyson has now gone what we call in-house, where she works inside the company as their lawyer. The company is her client. Okay. Lexi could potentially have Google as a client, and she would be considered outside counsel. Alyson would hire Lexi to help her on an issue that impacts Google exclusively. So Lexi might have 17 clients. Right?
Yeah.
And she's got to sort of manage her day and manage her schedule as outside counsel to deal with all of their separate issues. Okay, but she's corporate counsel, so she's only going to deal with the issue related to transactional work. And if that same client needs a lawyer to go into a courtroom, Lexi's going to be like, "Hey, Karla," right? So you might see on TV. Go ahead, Lexi.
Oh no, sorry. Yes, that's exactly right.
On television, lawyers do everything. Okay, a lawyer is a lawyer is a lawyer. Okay, in real life, only the lawyers who want to get disbarred do everything. Okay, so at some point, you're going to figure out what type of lawyer you really want to be and what area you want to specialize in and what subject area specifically you want to specialize in. Alyson is a labor and employment lawyer. And again, she's got one client, but within Google, right? We all think about, oh, I can't wait to leave the firm and go in-house. But I've been talking to in-house lawyers and it sounds like.
I mean, I'll tell you, I heard that too. Somebody sold me, I don't know, but I was like, I'm about to go in-house. And it's got to be just like cushy. I will tell you though, the difference, I work more hours now for this client than I did when I was outside counsel. And that's because I am more well steeped in the business. So the engagement is like, when I was outside counsel, they're paying you that hourly rate. So they're sending you one email with like 8 questions, and then you send it to, I got 8 questions. I'm sending them all. I give them to Lexi. I'm like, please get this back to me in 7 days. And then Lexi works on it in the background. She we might meet up next week. We have a half-hour conversation about it. And then I'm like, thank you, Lexi, goodbye. So, but on the other side of that, I'm like, the reason I have 8 questions is because I have 8 different people inside the business who are like, what's this? What's that? What, to help me, I want to do this other thing. And I'm managing all of those people and trying to answer them where I can. And they're pinging me at all crazy hours because now I'm salaried, right? And I'm a cost. They're like, you're bringing in no revenue. So you are not Google assistant. You're not an engineer. You're not building anything. We are just spending money on your salary. We don't know why. So they're asking me all sorts of questions. You have crazy senior vice presidents who are like, can you meet now? And I'm like, it's 10:30. I am literally in pajamas. No. So I just so many unreasonable things. But also on the flip side of that, we have terrific benefits and perks and like all the things that you hear about, you know, Google being a wonderful place to work because, you know, we've got playgrounds and swimming pools. Those things are true. I mean, we're not using them right now because we're all working from home. And I get to hear that from the employees. Like, is somebody going to pay for my groceries because we don't get lunch anymore at the office? And I'm like, that is what your salary is for. I'm already paying you to buy groceries, but that is not always satisfactory. But yeah, that's sort of the dynamic that works between like, you know, myself and Lexi. And I certainly, there are many benefits to working inside of a company, all of the like, you know, wonderful company culture that that happens and being a part of the business decisions. That was actually the reason I decided to move from outside counsel to inside, is that I felt like as outside counsel, I was always setting up the guardrails. This is the minimum that you can do, right? When it comes to my profession, it's like, you can't go below this. And I felt like I was setting the bar so low, like, don't discriminate against your employees. I was like, that is just the lowest bar. I wanted to be on the inside of the business so that I could help them set the upper boundary. I want to say like, what's the moonshot on providing equity inside of a business? Like, that's what I want to do. That's what I want to be a part of, is a part of like setting that upper boundary, being out on the edge when it comes to making an inclusive work environment. I wanted to be a part of the business decisions that go apart, that are a part of that, but also helping my clients mitigate the risk of potentially getting a lawsuit from some other, you know, crazy direction.
Wow, incredible. I absolutely love that. And so we have brought ourselves to the point where we're going to do our breakout rooms so that you guys can ask specific questions of the speakers. There were a ton of questions submitted. Thank you guys so much for doing that. And now you get to ask your questions in the breakout rooms.
Awesome. So we will transition everyone to a breakout room. I tried to chat most folks ahead of time, so you will go to a room. There will be a couple of people who will stay in the main room for about another minute while I move you, if I wasn't able to kind of chat you during the session. So just give us a couple minutes. But everybody, once you see the breakout rooms, feel free to go and get started. Karla, I'm going to pop into yours, but feel free to go ahead and get started before I get there. But everybody else, go ahead, and the breakout room should pop open now. And if you don't go to a room, stay in the main room and then just let me know which room you want to go into. All right. All right. So Maxine, I will put you in with Alyson. Give me 1 second.
Sorry, I missed the message.
Just
now.
So Maxine, you said Alyson? Okay, perfect. And Alikem, sorry if I pronounced that incorrectly. Let me know which room you want to go into. And if it doesn't matter, I can just put you in one of them. Okay. Welcome back, everyone. I think the other two groups are taking their full 60 seconds before. So we'll just wait for the last groups to come in.
As we're waiting, I don't know if y'all already did this as well. I came in late, I apologize, but where are y'all from? I'm personally located in, oh, never mind. Well, I'm in Texas. That's the best state in America, but.
Awesome. Well, welcome back, everyone. Hopefully you had some good conversations in your breakout rooms. Before we wrap, Karla, allow me, if you will, if we could have each one of the panelists share just kind of some final parting words or parting thoughts of advice, suggestions, or just kind of final thoughts. 30-second to minute and a half version. And then we'll kind of wrap things up for the evening.
Awesome. We defer to Lexi and Allison.
Go for it, Lexi.
I don't even know where to start. I guess if I could, I don't know, maybe I will leave you guys with a piece of advice, I guess. I think Karla sort of touched on this at the beginning, that creating a space for yourself and checking in on your own wellness is so important. I think that's become more clear in this past year in a pandemic. But I think whatever path you choose to go down, make sure you're always sort of that you're the one setting boundaries in your life and you are carving out space for yourself. Life can be hard, for so many different reasons, but there's also so many positive things that we need to sometimes remind ourselves of, or make sure that we are doing the things that bring us joy and put a smile on our face and let us let go of sort of the hard parts of our lives. So I definitely want to encourage you all that no matter what, like, find your happiness, find your joy, and keep that space for yourself and protect it, because no one else will do that for you. So I hope you guys do that for yourselves.
Sort of dovetailing off of what Lexi said and some of and even from the comments that I heard in the breakout session, definitely don't go to law school unless you want to be a lawyer. I met so many disgruntled law students because they didn't actually want to practice law. So definitely do that. Check in with yourself, as Lexi is talking about. The other thing I recommend is not being afraid to pivot. If you are in one spot and you feel like you're on a path and it's not fulfilling for you, or you feel forced, or things are just not clicking, like don't be afraid to either take time off to do something else to give yourself the space, or to do something completely different, dramatically different than where you were before. I really enjoy the work that I do right now, but I don't know that I will be a lawyer forever and ever. I think that's part of like the excitement of these lives that we live, is that we get to shape and evolve and change as we go on. And I just try to keep checking in with myself. Is this where, do you still love it? Is this what you want to do? And like, where do you want to be at the end? So definitely, I encourage you to do the same.
I love that. I'm assuming many of you who have not yet gone to law school have heard lots of people say, ooh, you don't want to become a lawyer, or, ooh, yeah, I became a lawyer and, it was the worst decision I made, or, ooh, don't go to law school. It just feels like there's a lot of people who went to law school who are out there telling you not to go to law school. I'm not one of them. Like, I really enjoyed law school. And I really enjoy being a lawyer, okay? There is a question of where you do it, how you do it, and with whom you do it. I enjoyed my time in Big Law at the time I was doing it. And I was really looking forward to leaving Big Law at the time I left Big Law, okay? It is a great training ground for folks. Thankfully, I was able to pay off my student loans during that time, and then buy a house, and pay for a wedding, and have some kids. All of these things were afforded by my time in Big Law, right? But there are 1,000 other places to practice law, 1,000 other ways to do it. So when you're when people are telling you don't go to law school, I hate being a lawyer, whatever, you just want to ask a few follow-up questions, okay? Where are they practicing? What are they practicing? And with whom are they practicing? And as you think about that, I encourage you to go to law school and just do it with your values at the front and make sure you've got a plan to be resilient. So thanks for having us, you guys.
Awesome.
Yes,
Well,
thank you so much.
Awesome. Well, thanks again to Karla, Alyson, and Lexi for your time this evening. We definitely appreciate it. I'm sure the scholars and alumni and captains on the call also appreciated it. Again, we thank you also to the scholars, captains, and alumni who joined as well for asking great questions and being engaged this evening. So be on the lookout for our next professional development event coming up hopefully sometime soon. But with that, we will wrap things up for the evening. Thanks, everyone, and we will see you next time.
Thanks so much. Thanks, Allison. Thanks, Lexi.
Bye.
Thanks, RBS.
Thank you so much.